To the Amp Your Social Voice webinar with partnership with Immunovant. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our discussion will provide you with the proper resources to successfully raise awareness for GBS-CIDP Awareness Month this May, which is in just a few more weeks. So at the end of the webinar, we will discuss how you can participate in Awareness Month and what the foundation has to offer all month long. So that will include resources, events, and other ways just to participate throughout the month. So right now, I am turning it over to JB from Immunovant, and she will kick off the webinar.
Great. Thank you so much, Meg, and welcome everybody. If you could put my next slide up, please. Excellent. Great. So as Meg mentioned, we are going to be doing a program today that we call Amping Your Social Voice. And we are so thrilled to be working with the GBS-CIDP Foundation. Next slide, please. So we greatly value the work that the foundation does to support people living with GBS, MMN, and CIDP. And we also enjoy engaging with the patient community. And we are very grateful to be able to bring you this program in partnership with the foundation today. Next slide, please. So thank you very, very much for joining. If you have not heard yet about Immunovant, we're a clinical stage immunology company. And our goal is to enable normal lives for people living with autoimmune diseases. We're developing targeted therapies that are designed to address the complex and variable needs of people who are living with autoimmune diseases. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the AIM program. AIM stands for Advocacy in Motion. And this program is a skill building program, and it's designed for US-based patient and professional advocacy organizations. And we try and bring content to the patient and advocacy community that helps sharpen your skills and make you more effective advocates. And at the end, you'll have an opportunity to take a very brief survey because most of the ideas for these programs actually come from the patient and caregiver community. So please pay attention for the link for that so you can help us bring more programs to this community. But today we're going to be focused on how you can really leverage your social media channels to build awareness. And this is a great time to focus on this with CIDP Awareness Month coming up. Some of the objectives for today's program are to help you create more awareness of GBS and CIDP Awareness Month, to build community connections in the digital space on social channels, and to take actions, actually. So some of you may have different ways that you engage during Awareness Month, and hopefully by the end of this webinar, if you haven't done it before, you'll feel more empowered to leverage social media to help bring awareness next month. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our expert speaker for today. I'm introducing Mike Matthews. So Mike is the social media director of BrightDart. BrightDart is a healthcare communications consultancy, and he's worked in a variety of roles in healthcare communications with real expertise in social media. So he's worked at J&J, he's worked at Pfizer, and he's worked at Sanofi, and he's also done work in the consumer space as well for companies like Tiffany and Bed Bath & Beyond. He's also a contributing author for Forbes, for Mashable, and for the HuffPost, and an adjunct instructor of social marketing at NYU and Fordham University. And you can see some more fun facts here, but Mike, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to finish up the introduction and get us started.
Okay, that makes me sound much cooler than I actually am, but I am most proud of being a Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade clown. 7-time Macy's. So when you're watching Thanksgiving, or if you're watching the parade during Thanksgiving, one of those clowns, that's me. So my mom couldn't be more proud of that. Welcome. It's great to have everyone here. I wish I could see all of your faces, but I hope you're having a lovely day today. I would love to kind of get to know you a little bit more as we talk about social media. And so before we get started, I wonder if you can do a quick poll with me. And I want you, just give me a second while I bring this, excuse me. Sorry, it's always a little hard to navigate a couple of these things at once, but I'm going to bring up a poll with these two questions here. So the first question is, here we go. Okay. What is your primary social media channel? What platform do you use the most? You spend time, perhaps maybe you're more of a passive kind of a consumer of the platform you take on. You just read the content as instead of posting, but where do you spend most of your time? So go ahead and vote on that on your screen. Looks like so far Facebook is in the lead with Instagram not far behind. Oh, these are great. Thank you all for voting. My goodness. Okay, I'll give you just a couple more seconds here. Okay, looks like we're slowing down and okay. So it looks like we have, and for the second question, of course, how do you typically use this channel? You post about your personal life, spreading awareness about important issues. So I'm going to end the poll. Oh, still sorry, some people are still going. Good job, everyone. My goodness. Right now we have 42 people that have used the poll. So I'm going to share the results with you here. But it looks like Facebook, 50% of you said that's your primary social media channel. Instagram in second place at 19%. TikTok at 8%. Twitter 6%. And then LinkedIn, 17% of you said. And then how you typically use the channel, posting about your personal life, 14%, spreading awareness. That tells me a lot about this crew, that you post a lot about awareness, even more so than your personal life. So we have a very active community. That's great. Interact with content from other people, 31%, scroll for updates. Okay, this is great. Thank you for sharing. That gives me a sense for the audience that we're talking to today. Okay. So I want to talk about a couple different things with social media. So our focus today is about learning to tell your story on social media in a very impactful way. We'll review tips to consider when you're creating content on social, and then we'll talk through what to do kind of after you've captured someone's attention for your objective of posting. How do you keep them engaged, building a community, but also keeping them engaged? And so those are the three things that I want to talk about. And then any questions that you might have, feel free to share those. And we'll have some time in the end to go through and answer some of those questions. I just want to point out one thing today, because it'd be impossible for us to go through every platform and kind of going through the technology of each platform and how to make the most appropriate, say, Instagram story and those kinds of things. That would fill up a lot of our time. And so I really want to focus on some of the kind of the meat of what should be utilized in social to be effective, as opposed to the tech side of that, which if you have some questions at the end, I'm happy to answer those. But just know that if you're looking for, this is going through how to use each platform, that's probably a whole nother kind of discussion in person, probably to kind of go through it. So these are what I've learned from working from the various kind of brands in my career. And honestly, what sometimes is still missing from a lot of brands that I've worked with in the years, of just trying to get to the heart of these things, when it's what's this new shiny platform, as opposed to let's get it right, the one that we're currently on. So so a quick review of the platforms. I'll just go through this really quick. Facebook, as was stated in the poll, is older, but it's not going anywhere. Facebook still has a lion's share of social media, US adults especially. So right now, social media users in the US, Facebook still commands 53% of all social media site visits are in the US on Facebook. And it's worth noting that a lot has been in the news about Twitter, or X now that it's called. There was a survey that went out a year ago, spring of 2023, and it was like 1/4 of X users said that they wouldn't use the platform next year. It's gotten so complicated and political and different things. But we've seen a little bit of a dive with X, but it hasn't necessarily gone away. But it's certainly not one that's been promoted a lot right now. And the same goes true with, I'm sure you've heard about TikTok, a lot in the news as well. It is by far the fastest growing program in the US, or platform in the US. It has a daily engagement of 46 minutes, and it doubles in users every year. That's starting to slow down just a little bit, but as every platform does, increase in the first years of development. But and then LinkedIn, I saw a lot of you use LinkedIn as well from the poll. LinkedIn is amazing because it's moved from kind of, I'm looking for a job where I have a job opening, to more of a professional social network, like a pure one, like a true social network over the last 5 years. LinkedIn's taken quite a kind of a shift. And so let's talk about telling your story. Everyone has a unique one. Everyone has a story. This is the most powerful way of spreading awareness and driving social engagement. So I understand, especially when it comes to talking about any type of health condition, especially one that's chronic, and that telling your story can be very vulnerable and very hard to do. And this isn't me telling you that you need to do that. That's for you to decide what makes the most sense for you. But I just want to point out how frustrating and hard that can be. I know people from different kind of rare disease communities who will put themselves out there for the first time and say a lot of people don't comment or like, and all of a sudden they feel deflated and they kind of revert back, and they're like, all right, I'm not going that route again. And so, it's your emotions are tied up into, these are people that are part of your personal community or your, disease state community. So that can be I just want to acknowledge that for sure. So what can you do? So I want to talk about, another little exercise with you guys. This is what I do with all my students at NYU, and I just did this with a career fair for my daughter's junior high, and it was fascinating. Chipotle is #1, by the way, for this. Chipotle needs to sponsor every junior high because that was the most shared from this. I'd like, just take a moment, a minute or two, and write down on your phone, on a piece of paper, or just your thoughts, write down 2 or 3 people, organizations, or brands that you love or like to follow on social media. You're pretty consistently checking in. So just take a second and think about that, and maybe write those down. And you could share it with us as well, actually. Okay. So if you have those written down, I'd like for you to think about them for just a little bit. And maybe even if you're by your phone, go on Instagram to one of those organizations, brands, people, and just kind of scroll through and look at their content. And I want you to think about these questions as you do that. When you're looking at their content, are they speaking to you as their biggest fan, follower, fellow member of the community, whatever that might be? And then what do you enjoy or value from their content? So take just a moment and look through that. And you're welcome to share some of these as well. Okay. There's a couple. I just want to read a couple that someone sharing. It's they followed J.M. Stevens. I actually don't know who that is. It's a writer, a speaker living with autoimmune disease. And they like their content because she's relatable. They like the writing, and we have something in common. Thank you for sharing that. I enjoy following people who are smart, accomplished, and take time to uplift others instead of just being self-promotional. That's a big one. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Okay. So just keep those things in mind as you're considering what kind of content you want to share. Who is your audience? Are you speaking to the general public? Are you speaking directly to people that are like-minded like you? The words you use, what resonates with them, what's most important to them? It's always important to just think about that. So some of the tips, and some of these sound very basic, but I'm telling you, this is how you do it. Some of the tips for maintaining an authentic social media presence. So the first one is to be you. So speak to your audience in your own voice. So whether you're funny or comical, emotional, vulnerable, serious, or all of the above, just use language and content that you'd use during a dinner conversation one-on-one. I think we've gotten away from social media being social, and avoid creating a different persona than who you really are. You can sniff that out when you're following someone and everything kind of looks perfect in their lives or whatever that might be. You know that there's something that might be similar, kind of not necessarily completely honest about that. And people respond to vulnerability and realness. And then storytelling is key. I'll mention this 3 or 4 times in this presentation. Don't get mad at me, but I want to reiterate that. Think of just a story, not a comprehensive story, maybe not a beginning or an end. It's just one singular story. No, not using general language, but storytelling is king. Think about whatever you'd like to communicate to the people on social media, and then think of how that could be communicated in one singular story from your life, from your thoughts, whatever it might be. Stories resonates. It's the caveman and woman in us. That's just how we keep together. And as far as like keeping traditions and memories and things alive, it'll always resonate longer. And then lastly is to be collaborative. So what I mean by that is being a strong voice of the community, but don't aim to be the voice of the community when it feels kind of competitive, especially when it comes to a community like yourself that you're in. So consider others that you can include, feature, highlight. If you feel like there's times when you're not sure you want to grab your phone, hold it in front of you, and it just feels so awkward and you don't want to be on camera, which is completely fine. All right, how could you highlight perhaps someone else? How can you lift someone else up and just collaborate with them, as well as organizations that you are with? So, okay, let me go to the next slide here. So I want to give an example of great storytelling on social media. So many of you might know Angela. She's a member of the Foundation's advisory committee and very active in sharing her CIDP story on Facebook and Instagram. And so I want to point out a couple of things, and I'm going to have Angela chat a little bit about this, but I want to point out a couple of things, which is not awkward for Angela at all, for all of us to be looking at photos of her right now. So Angela, thank you for being a trooper and amazing. So what I love about it is Angela kind of gets right into her thoughts and stories. Like there's not this big long intro. It gets to the core. She uses her own voice. Like if you haven't met Angela in person, this feels like you know her. She's very vulnerable. She opens up about CIDP. Obviously she uses images and videos and that kind of thing, and she makes it unique to her. And so I want to bring in Angela, and I just had a couple questions for you, Angela, that I wanted to ask, which was, Angela, what inspired you to put yourself out there on social media to discuss CIDP?
So I first started posting when I was initially diagnosed, almost 8 years ago now. I kind of started posting just to update all of my extended friends and family. And then the support was just overwhelmingly positive, and a lot of people started asking, what is this thing that you have? Like, what is this 17-word, really complicated disease that you have? So I started posting more for awareness and education, and that just kind of took off.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Can I ask, what has been the reaction of your community when you posted these stories?
It's been so positive and so supportive. I don't think I've really ever had one negative comment. I even get private messages just encouraging me. I've been able to connect with other patients and make really close friends with them. One of them's even coming to my wedding. So it's just been overwhelmingly positive.
That's incredible. There was a stand-up comedian, and he sold out not Carnegie Hall, Radio City Music Hall. 20,000 people were attending, and he was asked, what does it feel like to stand there with a microphone, have everyone laugh, 20,000 people laugh at your joke, and all at the same time? It has to be incredible. He's like, it is incredible. It's why I do what I do. But you know what? I look out there in the audience, I see like the 300 people sprinkled in the 20,000 with their arms folded, kind of like, I don't get it. I don't really. And that's all he can think about is that one negative thing of 20,000, right? Of the 300 of the 20,000. And so, I'm glad that it's all been positive. And I want to acknowledge that sometimes that one negative or kind of awkward response that feels kind of odd from someone, can throw you off. And so we kind of naturally do that. But
I've had more negativity in real life than I have on social media. So it's a nice change.
that's great to hear. And as far as like the people that reach out to you, have you had, I guess, there's a lot of other community members. It's also people that are just wanting to know more, like you said, about CIDP. And so those discussions kind of take on their own one-on-one.
They do. Yeah. Some have been family, just still not really understanding what it is, but just trying to be encouraging. Some has been patients looking for more support. So it's been really great.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
And if anyone has any, I should have mentioned this earlier, but there's a Q&A button on Zoom here that you can ask any questions and make any comments there. So as we go along, but okay. So next I want to talk about creating impactful content. We talked about how to talk on social media, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. So let's jump into tips for creating great social content. So when you're thinking about what you want to focus on, be as focused as possible. I mentioned this earlier, but one story, one video, one focus. Think of one question prompt that you could answer in 60 seconds. Perfect for Instagram, right? A story or a post where tell us about the day that you were diagnosed with CIDP. Tell us about the first thing that you said or did or what happened there. The more specific, the better. Sometimes we tell these comprehensive stories of our whole journey. And for social, it can be a little tricky because people need, their attention span is shorter. And so it can be a little tricky like that. And so breaking things up like that, especially as a community internally, is really powerful to share those stories and find common ground and that kind of thing. And so striving for kind of bite-sized content that are short. If you're doing videos, try and make it 1 minute or less on videos. Especially for Facebook and Instagram. And then visuals matter. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And then stay consistent. So if it feels overwhelming on how often should I post, just thinking to yourself, what is for my mental health sake and just everything else, and I can relax, I'm just going to post once a week about CIDP or more. Or it's just going to be during awareness months, whatever it might be best for you. But when you kind of set up a mental schedule for yourself, it becomes a little less stressful. Or you just want to post when you're feeling kind of vulnerable as well. So in the discussion about kind of visual-based content, so like I said, short form, less than a minute videos have 2.5 times more engagement than long form videos. If you've created an amazing video that's 6, 7, 10 minutes long, I don't want you to feel disheartened. Those should always be shared. Sometimes it's nice to kind of break those up into sections of kind of 1 minute to 90 seconds, but don't be discouraged. Just as a general rule of thumb, that's where you have the highest engagement, attention spans. If someone's walking, they have their phone, they have 60 seconds to kind of understand what the video is, to kind of absorb it, and then, they're kind of on to the next thing or so. And then 51% of users are more likely to share a video with family and friends over any other content type. So video-based content is where we're going on it. Well, we already are there, I should say, but anytime you can use video, it's always more impactful than still images or just text. So another example here, I wanted to give a shout out to a fellow community member who's really great at creating impactful content, especially around multifocal motor neuropathy awareness. Whew, hopefully I got that. Oh, Clive.
You
Not
got
only-
that.
Not only do you have a better accent than me, you can speak better than me just in general. So many of you might know or follow Clive. If not, give him a follow on Instagram or Facebook. So a few things that you might notice about Clive's content here is the visual nature of it, how incredible it is. You're kind of jumping into his life. So he has beautiful visuals of the bike rides that he takes to raise awareness, and he fundraises for MMN Awareness Month. It's also worth noting that as much as we want to have kind of really high resolution videos and pictures, Pete, it's okay if you don't have the best iPhone, the most latest, whatever camera, whatever it might be. It's always most important to have the best content wherever it feels real and raw. And so the content from a smartphone is just perfectly okay. High quality, high definition stuff is nice to have, but we want to capture the real stuff. And so with that, Clive, I have a couple questions, just kind of looking through your content. So why, Clive, and I should mention, this is what I noticed looking through Clive's content that I wanted to ask him about, is he does an excellent job of promoting for MMN awareness, but also he brings in and he collaborates and highlights other people from the community or around the community as well. And so I wanted to ask you, Clive, about that. Why is it so important to highlight or share the stories of other community members, and kind of how do you approach that?
I mean, ultimately, I just think it's far more impactful as a story if we're in this together. This isn't just about me. There's a whole bunch of people out there who are helping us in one way, shape, or form. There's some of the cyclists there that have ridden for me and with me, and people I meet. To my mind, that's what I get the most value out of, is those kind of conversations, those connections. And then there's also a slightly selfish side to this, which is I want to try and reach as big an audience as possible, and by tagging others into that I'm connecting with, they get notifications that I've posted about them, so there's a chance of them also kind of sharing content. So it's partly because we are in this together, but it's also slightly a kind of selfish marketing ploy, shall we call it, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Tagging others and using relative hashtags is obviously an important way to make just them aware. Obviously, they might not have any idea you're posting about them, and so now they have the opportunity to kind of reshare, and it reaches additional people. So that's great. Thank you, Clive. Thank you for that. So the last part that I want to talk about is engaging with others and keeping them engaged. So this is interesting. Think about those the people, organizations that you did the exercise for earlier. And if you still have them up, you can kind of look through their Instagram or Facebook page on your phone and look through if there's comments made by other users. It's interesting to look at how that person or that company did they reply to the users or community members' comment, and how did they reply? So if you have a second, just look through those comments, and perhaps even your own personal page. You might go back to a post that you made a week or two ago and look at some people that you know that have made a comment that perhaps, life gets busy. It's okay. But there was never a reply to them. And so that's normal, but it's similar to just companies, brands. It's the same. So this idea to let's make social media social again is having two-way dialogue versus just even responding. Sometimes just a response is great, but sometimes we forget that. So when people comment, that is a big deal, especially if you're talking about awareness or CIDP. It's a big deal. They might have questions because they're outside the community. Maybe they're inside the community and want to connect in some way. And so the thank yous and your welcomes are always appropriate to acknowledge. But I just wonder if we could kind of flip the script a little bit and start thinking about having a two-way dialogue by asking an additional question to them, or just continuing the conversation. Like their comment on your post is launching into a new conversation versus just kind of ending right there. And so, and the other thing I would say is with that is, and what's really fun is it can guide the content that you share. You can ask people simply, like, what would they like to know more about, for instance, and that could guide the content that you share at a future date. So I talk to companies a lot about this, which is we do so much research on our end, trying to figure out what content resonates and is engaging the most. And then, quite honestly, we could just ask directly. And so it's an Instagram poll, it's an open-ended question on Facebook or whatever it might be, just saying, we are focusing in on this particular topic, life hacks, that kind of thing. And are there life hacks that you would like to share to collaborate? Also, or is that something that would interest you in being discussed? And so kind of allowing the community to guide your content. And then reaching out and connecting with others, obviously from the community. So to find out ways to creatively build awareness together. So why not reach out to someone and say, let's make a big impact on this, whether it's awareness, whether it's something else, and someone that you appreciate, you enjoy, and say, we both are part of this thing together. What can we do collectively together to make a bigger reach and scale of our message and what we want to get across, and then go with it. Just collaborate. I can't tell you, I deal with a lot of influencers on social media. And sometimes where they are at fault is they will just try, like I mentioned earlier, to be like this. I want to be the singular, most popular voice within this subject or this category of person. And man, that's really tough. But the ones that are really successful are like, I know I have something that I really want that's positive to share, that I know the world needs, but I also know others like me have their own unique stories, and they try and bring them together to do it together. And so that always is really helpful. I want to share a kind of a funny little story about engagement done well. Totally off topic from CIDP. Wendy's is pretty famous for their kind of social media, their engagement. They engage directly with users. This is me and my grandma. My grandma, in this picture, she's 98, believe it or not, and she passed away at 102 years old. So my grandma, I would send out a tweet of my grandma because every time I would fly from New York, where I lived, to Seattle, where she lived, we'd go to Wendy's, we'd have an hour-long lunch or 2-hour-long lunch, and I tweeted a picture of her holding this Diet Coke in the car you see on the upper right-hand side, and then Wendy's retweeted that, and then reached out to me to say, who is she? She kind of looks like, if Wendy was kind of grown up, this kind of looks like Wendy a little bit. And so very nutshell of a story, but over a 5-year period, my grandma became the face of Wendy's and would do live Q&A sessions on Wendy's social media channels. The picture of us is in the back of a Wendy's on her birthday, where they flew out and filmed her. And we did a lot of great things with her. Just incredible that a brand as big as Wendy's would acknowledge and run with content that some guy that just posted a picture of his grandma did. And I'll never forget giving her eulogy at a church, staying at a pulpit, giving her eulogy, and Wendy's catered the entire funeral. So smelling chicken McNuggets and and chili and everything else. It smelled like a Wendy's inside of this church that I was giving the eulogy at. I'll never forget that in my entire life. So that's Grandma Eileen. She's the best. But so just for some final tips, I'm just checking our time. So we have some time for Q&A. If you have any questions, that Q&A button there on Zoom, click that and you can type that in. I can answer those once we get to the Q&A section. And so some of our final tips. So dealing with negativity, which we mentioned a little bit early with Angela, but I get this question a lot. What do we do with spam? Is easy. You can delete, you can block, that kind of thing with spam and those things that happen. But inevitably, there's going to be someone that might comment on a post and that can feel very daunting. It kind of deflates you. So I have three kind of different options. I could say four options that you can, how you can handle these comments. And you can choose what's best for you. Number one, there's being upfront about the communication. So you can include a line, say in the bio of your Instagram account, in your description area, such as comments targeting others or myself will be deleted, to be upfront about your goal to create a very safe space. So you see that with private Facebook pages and groups too. That's usually upfront. The second one, which I recommend, is usually this has gone mostly positively, is to reply privately. So ask the person to take the conversation into your DMs or IM. And this shows that you can have the hard conversations, but it also puts the ball back on their court to follow up. And they might have a moment to think and review what they've said, to think, is this appropriate what I said? And then maybe hopefully it's a nicer conversation. And then the third way you can reply is to reply publicly. So on the page that everyone can see. So you follow up by asking them for more details, more info on their concerns, and you try and resolve that publicly, which can be tricky, depends on the person. Ad hoc, you kind of have to figure it out, but privately, it's honestly a lot better. And then the last is no reply. You don't need to, for repeat offenders, for people that you need to even go as far as deleting or blocking, that's perfectly okay to do. You don't want negativity to be on your page or within your community. So you can choose to just, you can defend it or you can ignore it, and that's okay. Which leads me to my last point, which is your mental health. You already have enough going on. Just right now, you've listened to me for almost 40 minutes, which has got to be exhausting already. But just kind of taking a big, deep breath right now. Just, let's just do it. Just even looking at Zoom, we look at a lot of Zoom screens. So your mental health is paramount. So it's important to remember when you're trying to build a community on social media, surround yourself with the individuals and organizations that lift you up and you lift them up. I'm often asked, should I have an account dedicated to, say, CIDP versus, or should it just be my personal account and I sometimes sprinkle in content about CIDP? That's really up to you. I know a lot of folks that have two separate accounts, so they can talk about CIDP more frequently, and it's dedicated obviously to other members of the community, whereas it's on their personal account, it's obviously more awareness, right? That's where you have more of the questions, like Angela said, of people reaching out, even in their family, to ask additional questions about what this is exactly. So, and then social media just can be overwhelming. So if you need to take a break, that's okay. But that's the most important thing. So just remembering that, don't feel overwhelmed by social media, or if it becomes overwhelming, which it can for everyone, it's okay to step back for a moment and take a big breath. So I hope that some of these tips have been helpful for you today. I hope that these have been just as you're kind of hopefully kind of applying and thinking about how these apply to your former content, what worked and maybe what didn't work, and also moving forward, what might actually be a good way for you to build engagement and keep a community engaged and strong. I hope these were helpful. So I'm going to turn it, if you have any more questions, that Q&A button here on Zoom, click on that and send your questions on social media. But I want to hand it over to Meg from GBS-CIDP Foundation that to talk about ways you can get involved with the organization for Awareness Month. So I'll pass it over to Meg.
Thank you. So GBS-CIDP Awareness Month starts next Wednesday, May 1st, and the foundation is celebrating the expansion and the inclusivity of our worldwide community. So this May is the ideal time to spread the word about your condition, everything the foundation has to offer, so no one has to walk this journey alone. So I just wanted to take some time just to share a little bit about what you can do throughout the month of May. So we are encouraging all community members to wear green and blue throughout the month. Take a photo, post on social media, include your story, a little bit of the advice that Matthew has shared with us as well. And then obviously don't forget to tag the foundation. We will be sharing people's posts all throughout the month. So if you want to be featured on our social media pages, that's the best way to do it. So again, wear green and blue all month and take that photo and post on social media. So just a few events that are happening throughout the month. We have a friends and family coffee chat. So this is the first time that we're doing this type of coffee chat. So we're encouraging you to sign up, bring a friend or family member who may not know too much about your condition. And we'll be sharing all about CIDP, all about GBS, just to really inform them more about your condition. So it's a really great way to bring friends and family members together. So that will be on Tuesday, May 7th. And then we have the PFDD meeting. So to bring the patient perspective to the forefront of the drug development process, the foundation is proud to announce that we are hosting an externally led patient-focused drug development meeting on May 16th to alleviate the patient voice of those with MMN, GBS, and Anti-MAG. So again, that is on May 16th. And then lastly, we are having another coffee chat, and this is geared towards informing healthcare providers worldwide. So this has to do with our Be the Bridge program. So we are offering information to our community members to learn best ways to approach healthcare facilities, who to contact, what to say, what materials are available for distribution, and how you can join our mission of ensuring no one walks this journey alone. So it's really just an awareness and giving you the confidence to go out to healthcare community members and just spread awareness about your condition, about the foundation, just so more healthcare facilities know about us. And that will be on Tuesday, May 21st. So all of this information that I just discussed will be in a follow-up email, including registration links, and we also will be sending an email out next week with this information as well. So I hope everyone participates in GBS-CIDP Awareness Month. We're really, really looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, Meg. So now we have a little bit of time to do a Q&A. So if you're trying to chat is a little tricky, but there's a Q&A button. If you click on there, you can put in a question. I see we have a couple different ones that have come through. And I also, Angela and Clive, if you're there, if you have a question for me or for Angela and Clive, I'd love to have them join as well so that they can answer those.
I think we actually have a question that maybe we want to bring Meg back for.
Oh, please.
Yeah. I'm not totally sure if this is Meg. My sense is it's more directed at the at the foundation, because I know that you're not, policing individuals' Facebook accounts. That would be a lot, or different social media channels. But there's a question here that wants to know a little bit about the foundation's efforts to ensure that the info related to a disease is relevant and true. Personal experiences, of course, are good, but making sure that you're walking that fine line, and myths can have a negative impact, this person says. So maybe you could just share a little bit about how you all, kind of walk that balance of making sure to honor the patient experience while making sure information is accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. So social media can be challenging in the way that there's so many Facebook groups out there that the foundation doesn't own. So obviously there can be a lot of misinformation out there. And the foundation, we've been continuously working on getting in those Facebook groups and really correcting that information, sharing links that relate just back to our website. So we're really trying to direct everyone to our website where the information is correct, rather than individuals just sharing their experience or what they think may be right. So it's definitely a constant struggle with all the social media pages out there, but definitely we encourage people to please share information that is, whether it's on our Facebook page, our Instagram page, LinkedIn, or just directly to our website. So I hope that answered your question.
Great, thanks. Mike, we have a really interesting question here that nobody's ever asked us, but it's a great question, and I'm wondering what kind of advice you'll have. So we have an attendee who wants to know, what is information that you can't post, like doctors' names, nurses' names? Maybe you could share some best practices, and maybe some of this is related to what you talked about and sort of making sure that you're creating a safe and a welcoming community. So,
I mean, from a general rule of thumb that we have on social media is, if they have a page, say a doctor has a page dedicated to their practice, which TikTok, if there's one platform that you'll see more surgeons and doctors talking about something health related, it's TikTok right now. Surprisingly, they're everywhere. So tagging them, that's okay to do. They've made themselves public as, I am a doctor, and not their personal pages, but this is my professional page. And so that seems appropriate, whether it's like from LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook. And so that's okay to do. From a, if it's a negative experience with someone, then you probably want to reach out to them directly, obviously. But anyone has a page that's set up for their practice, they're looking to increase their followers and reach as well. And so they appreciate someone reaching out and tagging them, or, putting a comment in there, within their post, that kind of thing. As far as if they don't have a presence on social, that can be a little bit tricky. From a company standpoint, we avoid talking about anyone's names. We're not going to use doctors' names or nurses' names. That would be a big no-no. But from your personal life, you have the freedom to do whatever you'd like. I would just say that's the rule of thumb. If they have dedicated pages to their practice, whatever that might be, that's where you can have a little more of a free reign to discuss, to tag, to be part of it. But otherwise, I would avoid using, this nurse, her first and last name at this hospital. I would probably avoid that. That could be not a great idea.
okay. Thanks for taking that one. We have another one. And this person is looking for tips on how to grow your Instagram followers. Now, there's in parentheses, it says awareness account, not a personal account. So I don't know if that means this person has an awareness account and they want to grow followers, or maybe you could address, is it better if you're trying to grow followers to maybe, especially around disease awareness, to have a dedicated account?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a great question. Thank you for asking that. I mean, I don't know if Angela and Clive are still there with us. I'm sure they are somewhere, but I mean, they are directly within this community. And I wonder, Angela and Clive, your response to that, what's helped you kind of grow your followers, and perhaps even to piggyback on that is, have you decided to kind of have separate accounts, and your personal as well as dedicated to CIDP, or was it kind of what was the decision process for you doing that, or not?
So I personally just have my personal account, but it's public, so anybody can see it, especially on Instagram. I use a lot of hashtags. So when you search for like hashtag CIDP support, my posts will probably come up. It just depends on kind of what you're looking for. So just a lot of hashtags. I actually, so I don't have to type them out every time. In my notes app, I have like a list of hashtags that I just copy and paste.
Smart, very smart, easy.
Super easy.
Great suggestion,
Oh,
yeah.
I've just learned a new tip. That's great. Thank you. I took the opposite approach. I've created Making the Most of Now. So that's my advocacy and awareness raising channel, I suppose. And that was a deliberately wanting to create something that was bigger than just me. And so it does create the challenge that I spend a lot of time posting on that and then having to share on my own individual social media. But I was looking to, I know it sounds ridiculous. I was trying to create a brand that was bigger than just me. Rather than, so it's not about me, which actually is fundamentally helps me do this, because I said to someone on my podcast this week that inherently I'm quite shy. I don't want to be in front of the camera. It's not about me. That was my rationale.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, JP.
oh, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I think those are great suggestions. I like I said in the presentation, like when you feel frustrated, it's like I've kind of peaked. I've got certain followers that grew for a minute and then it stopped. It's collaborate. Just collaborate. Like you can have even like a simple like Instagram post. Have you ever seen that you can kind of share a post so it's on both one channel and one page and another page at the same time? So discussing someone within the community that you could do something with, or perhaps even just bringing them onto your channel and say, can I Zoom record, or can I meet in person and film you answering this particular question or whatever it might be, or it's the both of you on camera, and then tagging them. They're going to share that on their accounts, and that's going to increase the number of followers that you have on yours, and everyone's kind of happy, right? You're not about you. It's like, to Clive's point, it's about something bigger than you. Yeah.
Mike, if I can add, I think we're all in the MMN world, and it's often a conversation. We're all waiting for a celebrity to stick their hand up and say we've got MMN, and it's been interesting where there's one or two people. There's an Australian Olympic swimmer who's got CIDP, who it's quite interesting when you approach people in the public eye. My experience to date has been engage quite well to start and then go a bit quiet. And I think that can be quite challenging. So people have got to be ready for that initial flood of enthusiasm from someone like that. And then they go quiet, probably because they've got bigger fish to fry.
Often celebrities can be a little bit disappointing. We expect that they're going to be able to help do so much in terms of spread the word, but everybody engages differently, and often what we hope will be their priority is not the priority. So we do have one more question, Mike, and we have probably just time for one more question as well. Somebody wants to know, and I think maybe goes back to the hashtags a little bit. Is there a way that you can help all of us connect so that we can support each other and promote each other's posts on social media? And so I would imagine with some of those hashtags, right, that just helps facilitate. I'll let you expand on that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many creative ways you can do this, but literally, if say it could be using a hashtag that's dedicated to the community, click on that and see who else is part of the community and just follow them and follow each other back. So building the community within each other itself is incredibly smart to do. And so then, the conversation on DM of those other community members that resonate with you, just decide what you guys would like to do, whether it's a private Facebook group, so you have more discussions, or if it needs to be more public or whatever it might be. But why not do that? In fact, what a great challenge. Just thinking about what was the hashtag, Angela, that you'd mentioned earlier as CIDP. I can't remember what it was.
There's I use a lot of hashtag CIDP patient, CIDP support, just CIDP, sorry. Letters get mixed up.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
All sorts of CIDP combinations, really.
And did you have any thoughts on that question? How can we all connect as a community so that we can support each other and promote each other's posts on social media? What are your thoughts when I say that, Angela?
I agree on looking up the hashtags. I know there's been several accounts that have reached out to me about reposting things because they found me through hashtags. So that's a good way to connect. Also tagging the foundation because I see them repost different things all the time. So that's another good way.
Excellent. I think, was that all the questions, JB?
Yeah, I think
got all.
that's all the questions, and that's about all we have time for. So should we
Okay.
wrap it up here?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are a couple of reminders for resources that are going to be available to you. Meg had mentioned that she'll be sending out a summary of several of the events that are going on this month for Awareness Month at the foundation. And along with that follow-up, I'm assuming, Meg, I can't say for sure, but I know you'll be sending out a summary of some of the important lessons learned through this AIM webinar today. So that's a great opportunity to get a little bit of a recap as you're thinking about your activities for May, and also has a link right to the foundation resources as well. Then on the next slide, as I mentioned to you before, your feedback on these programs is incredibly important to us. You have a QR code right here. You can scan it right now. It'll take you 5 minutes to answer a few questions, and it also gives you an opportunity to suggest topics for future programs for skill building for patients and patient advocates. So you can use this QR code, or along with the follow-up resources that I just shared, you'll also be getting a link to a survey if it's easier for you to complete the survey that way. But we hope that you'll take just 5 minutes to let us know how we did, and to also offer some topics for future consideration as well. But I want to thank everybody who attended today from the community and the foundation for being such a collaborative partner. It was an absolute pleasure for us to be able to bring this program to you, and wishing you a really productive GBS-CIDP Awareness Month. Thank you.